Any other question before we start with today's session?
So there
All
is
right.
some disturbance.
Okay, I don't know how to remove that, eliminate it. You guys can mute your mics. I mean, yeah. So at least if the disturbance is from your end, it will be minimized. But there's not much I can do at my end. I have this computer that's like, I don't know. Yeah. So let's try to do our best with what we have. Okay, Amantika? If you can hear me, that's fine. All right. Um, I know there's like a maintenance going on in campus building. Uh, can you at least understand what I'm saying? If you can't, then there's a problem. If you can, then let's continue. Amantika, can you understand
Yes,
me?
sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so we will continue with our lecture series on interview process. Okay, so last time you learned about basics about how to basically conduct yourself in a typical job interview, right? And you also saw what you need to do, like what can you do in order to, let's say, deal with the interview nerves and so on and so forth. Okay, so in today's session, we'll be covering on some of the typical questions that are asked in job interviews. Okay. All right. Of course, like in your job interview, you could get something different question. It'll be the prerogative of the person, taking the job interview. Okay. However, having said that, these are the questions that are normally asked in a job interview. Right. So if you prepare for these questions, then definitely it will help you at least soothe that interview nerve that we talked about, that nervousness, that feeling of, anxiety before you actually appear for your job interview. All right, so let's go over this topic today. All right, so in order to basically answer like questions more comprehensively and also be logical in your in your answering, all right, you can use this STAR method. Okay, so STAR method basically segments your answer into 4 segments. Okay, 4 stages in a sense, and consequently it makes your answer more logical to your interviewer. Okay, so I'll just explain what STAR method is. Okay, so this method can be used whenever whenever your interviewer is asking for some kind of result to basically demonstrate some result or outcome. Okay, so normally if you go directly to the result or your action, what you did, it may not be enough to basically get the pretext. Okay, you may know it, but your interviewer may not have any idea. Where did you use that skill, or where did you learn that experience? So in order to answer that, the first thing that you will do is basically explain about the situation, or in other words, create the pretext, or explain about the context where you use something what is relevant to the question or what the question is asking you. Okay, first, basically demonstrate the situation or context. The next thing you will do is explain what was the part of the job. Okay, what was kind of like a required or needed to be needed things or task in a sense. Okay, that is part of the project or job. Okay, so overall thing that kind of like the if you were involved in a project, the overall thing entailed that the project entailed, right? Next thing that you will do is you will explain about what did you do now, okay? What steps did you do in order to complete something, all right? Okay, so these will be, you will be explaining about your, uh, basically whatever you did for that, okay? So the last thing that you will do is highlight your accomplishment or result. So after doing those things in the action segment, okay, what was the outcome? Okay, so usually it would be some objective of the project that you were involved in. Okay, so if you divide your answer into this segment, it will be more logical to basically whoever will be questioning you, that will be logical to hear. All right. Okay. And for any question that has to do with some accomplishment or outcome, you can use the STAR method. Okay. All right, so example is given here. Okay, so a question is asked, like, for example, what is your experience with the Python language? Okay, so situation has been mentioned here, creating the context. Okay, for example, here, use Python programming language in the first year in college. Okay, so in the same year, use Python while working as an intern for Azure systems. Okay, then what was the task? What were you kind of like, what was the requirement of, the situation, or, like using Python language? Okay, the task was create a web-based program for inventory tracking system. So that was the overall task. So what things did you do? Okay, these will come under action. Okay, so you coded in Python language, and you also debugged and test runs for the inventory tracking systems. Okay, so overall, what was the result now? Okay, so this will be in bullet points here: successfully helped in ITS from start to end or start to sale. Okay, you also gained experience in testing softwares and program. Okay, and you also dealt with your corporate customers. Okay, and also some technical support. See, you basically, your objective was, or the reason why you will be answering that particular question would be highlight your accomplishment. Okay, so in order to come to the accomplishment or the result, okay, it's better to basically let your interviewer know how did you use it. Otherwise, if there's no context, then it will not be very clear answer. Okay, your interviewer might do, let's say, follow-up questions saying, okay, where did you use it? Okay, what things were you required to do, and so on. All right. Okay. All right, so here's an example here. Okay, the question is, let's say you're asked the question, describe a situation where you have had to manage your time to achieve your goal. Okay, how did you achieve this? All right, it's asking for some accomplishment or outcome. So you can use STAR method. So first, whoever is answering this question, that person created the context here. Okay, he or she was a part of the university football club. Then mention about what was the task, what was the overall task, okay, that was required. Then that person kind of went on in explaining about what he or she did, okay. Then finally, in this bracket here, that person explained about what was the outcome, okay, or what was the objective met. All right. So you can also use this method to highlight any accomplishment or outcome. Okay, let's watch a video. I think probably I did not enable the sound for this one. So let's just I'll make sure that the sound will be enabled in the video part. Okay, so. Let me enable the sound. Okay, let me get
Sound.
up. Get up. Go ahead. Were you able to hear the sound?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so let me get up and let me get back on again. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just hold on. Okay, I think it is turned on now. Let's try it so you guys can. Okay, so that's the STAR method in answering questions that kind of ask for your accomplishment or outcome. All right, so let's look at some of the question types. Okay, we'll also look at some of the sample questions for each of these question types. Okay, so broadly speaking, there are like 5 different question types that could be asked in your job interview. Okay, so these could be motivational questions, competency-based questions, strength-based questions, or questions that would kind of ask for your judgment, or some like it could be even like some random or unexpected questions. Okay, so let's look in more detail with regards to what these questions mean, or some of the sample questions under these categories. Okay, the first is motivational question. Okay, so this type of question basically tries to see if you are motivated to do your job. Okay, so you basically applied for a job. Okay, so that means that you are partly motivated in a sense. But are you really motivated, or are you just motivated by the money? Okay, so are you motivated to do the job, the actual ins and outs, okay, and doing every day part of job, okay? Or are you motivated in working for the company, okay? So normally, if you're not that much motivated, then most probably you will not stick with that company for a long time, all right? And companies, they don't want to invest in new people who would only to leave, let's say, in few months, all right? So they would want to make sure that you will stay, all right? Okay, so basically when answering these type of questions, okay, you need to basically show your understanding of the job applied to, and also the company that you're applying to. That means you need to do some research beforehand. Ideally, you would be doing research in the application phase and also just before your interview days. All right, so you can refresh on the job title, the job basically description, okay, and also the company, because you may have applied to several jobs, okay, and if you get confused, then it would not look good in the job interview. All right, okay. All right, so when answering this type of motivational questions, okay, so try to show that you are really interested in the job that you're applying to. It could be, let's say, if you're applying for an event manager position, okay, so you can show some relevant experience in your life before, how you have like managed like some events like for your family maybe, or for your friends, or while you're in college, right? You may have done some, managed some, or organize some events, right? These would kind of give, show the potential employer that you're really kind of like motivated to do this job, okay? All right. Or it could be the company itself, okay? So you have been researching for that company, you have heard about the company in the news, okay? So since like in your like college days, you've been really kind of like trying to get a job in that company. It could be like a company that's really big. I don't know what's like a big IT company in Nepal, okay? So you may have heard about the company from your like colleagues, or it was in the news, okay? So these could be the motivating factors, all right, in basically working for that company. And you can actually show that during the job interview if you get asked one of these motivational questions, right? Okay, so let's look at some questions, some sample questions, okay? So these are not exclusive questions under motivational questions. There could be other questions that would try to do the same. Try to see if you're really motivated to do the job or to work for that company, okay? So some questions here are, why do you want to do this job? So if you have applied for, let's say, Java programmer, okay, why do you want to be a Java programmer, right? Or like, what do you know about a company? Okay, could be, let's say, what aspects of the job interest you the most. These are trying to see if you are really motivated, if you're really interested in working for that job or for that company, right? And there are a bunch of other questions here you can practice on. So for your Viva, the final Viva, you will be asked based on some of the questions that you will see in today's lecture session, okay? So what I would ask is, like, practice on these questions so you feel more comfortable during your Viva. All right? Okay, so here's some sample question answer here. Okay, so you can look at it and try to see how it's been answered here. Okay, so question reads, why have you chosen to apply to our organization? So basically you want to
screen is not here.
hold on just a moment. Sorry for that. Okay, I didn't realize it. Okay. So the question asks, like, why have you chosen to apply for our organization? So before that, let me go back to the previous screen with a bunch of questions for motivational question type. Okay. So here is like, what aspects of the previous work experience have you enjoyed and why? Okay. The previous work could be related to the current job that you applied to, and they want to know, like, what would be, are you really, motivated to do this job that you have applied to? All right. Do this sample question and answer and see how it's been answered here. So basically, you want to show some interest in the company that you're applying to, okay? To basically give them some hint that you will be working for the company for a long time, hopefully, right? Okay, that you want to advance your career in that field or in that organization. Okay. Okay, so next question would be the competency-based questions. Okay, so these are the questions related to the job itself that you're applying to. So if it's, let's say, if it's the Java programmer job position, then you'll get like questions related to Java programming, right? They want to see, they want to make sure that you have the required experience or knowledge for that job position. If it's, let's say, the event planner, you'll be getting questions that is related to event planning job position. Okay, so just basically give some evidence based on, let's say, your education or based on your previous prior work experience, or it could be training, some kind of training that you received previously, or let's say some kind of certification that you have gotten that is relevant to the question. Okay, so here you want to show your competency to basically to do the job that you have applied to. Okay. Okay, so here's sample questions here. So these would be related to the two job positions that have been applied. That have been advertised for your last assignment, right? You're required to write cover letter and either resume or CV. So one was the Java programmer, another was the event planner. So sample questions here. So expect to be asked similar question in your mock job interview. Okay, so it could be, can you tell us about encapsulation in Java? So if you are not really familiar with what Java programming language is, most probably you'll not know how to answer this question. Okay, all right. So so for this type of questions, you can definitely use the STAR method, okay, that we talked about previously. The situation, task, result, and the action and result, right? So let me give you an example. So if the question is like, tell us about the last time you use a Python programming language, for example, okay, if you get asked this question. So how can you use the STAR method to answer this question in more comprehensively and also more logically, okay? So your answer could be like this. I'm just giving you a sample answer, okay? Your answer could be different. All of you guys could answer it differently. I'm just giving a sample answer here. So let me just read it out. So since I'm still in college, so the last time I used Python programming language is rather recently. It was for my class project. I was required to develop a program to remotely control light bulb for the smart home concept. Okay, so that's the situation. You basically created the context where you used Python programming language. Okay, so the next kind of like paragraph, in a sense, you are speaking, of course, would deal with your task. Okay, so I use Python and its different libraries. I researched on how to control components through Bluetooth connectivity and coded my program in the Python programming language. Okay, so that's the task. What were you required to do? Okay, as part of the job. Okay, and also it was the action as well. What did you actually do? You actually coded the program using different libraries. And the last thing that you would do would be highlight your accomplishment or result. Okay, I hold on. The project was a success. Okay, I got A in the Python programming course. Okay, so that was the highlight or the accomplishment for the question that you were asked, right? So basically, that's how you would use the STAR method. Okay. All right, so next question type would be strength-based questions. Okay, so these are the questions that basically would show kind of, do you have the drive to do the job? Okay, so if you apply for a job and if you don't have that enthusiasm to or the interest in doing that job, then most probably you'll not enjoy doing that job, even though you may be motivated, okay, to do the job. But if you don't have the drive, you may not stay or stick to that job for a long time, or stick to that company for a long time. So companies may want to like maybe see if you are really into it. Okay, so these questions could be, let's say, they may want to see if your interest, if your hobbies, if things that you do would be in line, or you would be in line to the basically the jobs that you will be doing as part of the position applied to. Okay, so these are the strength-based questions. So they will be looking at your personal strength. Okay. So these are some of the questions that kind of deals with the personal strength. For example, here, how do you know if you've had a good day? Okay, so what activities come naturally to you? Okay, so if your answer is something totally different from, let's say, the job that you applied to, then there's like incompatibility. Okay, so could give some hint to your employer, to your potential employer, that you may not enjoy that job. Okay, so there's other questions here. What are your greatest strengths? Or it could be, let's say, what are your weaknesses? All right. Okay, so you may also get some questions that had to do with your, let's say, judgment, like ethical, like standpoint, okay? Or it could be some asking for your, let's say, your opinion on something. Okay, so normally you'll not get asked questions, let's say, based on some controversial topics like religion, these politics. These questions are normally not asked. But when it comes to like ethical, like standards, okay, you could be asked questions to see if you, what would you do in like those in some situation, okay, some difficult situation. Okay, all right. So let's look at some examples here and it will be more clear. Okay, so question here, what would you do if your manager asked you to do something that you felt was unethical? Okay, so let's say you work for a company and your supervisor, your manager asked you to do something like maybe change the data in the financial report. Okay, so what would you do in that context? If nobody would find out, what would you do? All right, some of the questions. Okay, or it could be asking for your opinion as well. For example, how do you see social media developing in the future? Okay, so you could get questions like any kind of questions. Okay, that has basically that would kind of see if you have a good judgment. What would be your moral standard? Okay. Okay, so while answering for this type of questions, it may not be easy sometimes, okay? So your mind may go blank for a while, okay? So it's okay if you take few seconds. However, don't take too long. Okay, my suggestion would be don't take longer than 5 seconds. Okay, that would be too long. The gap would make you even more nervous. Okay, so just think about something that is relevant to the question and just answer. Okay, at the end of the day, you want to look good. Okay, so don't say anything that you would regret later on. Okay, if for some reason if you really can't answer it, uh, you can use fillers like that's a really difficult question, something like this as well. Okay, so like make sure you don't give like some you don't support some unethical uh, standard. All right, something immoral thing. Okay, make sure you don't do that. Okay, so also it is kind of like customary these days that like interviewer asks some really like unusual questions, right, or unexpected questions. So if you're asked this type of question, it will really kind of like throw you off in a sense, right? You may not really know how to answer these questions, all right, as the name suggests, unexpected or random. Okay, so there's no right or wrong answer for these questions. It's just trying to see if you can think outside the box in a sense. All right, how creative are you in thinking? All right, so normally, people may be tempted to give some, like a mediocre answer. But if you can really set yourself different by answering this type of question, let's say you applied for a job position and there were like a number of other candidates as well, like with similar qualification, similar educational backgrounds. Okay, so these type of questions could be the differentiating factor between the job applicants. All right, so let's look at some of the unexpected or random question example. Okay, so example here, if you won $20 million or pound on the Lotto program, what would you spend the money on? Okay, this kind of looking at like what are your priorities in life. Okay, or if you were a piece of fruit, what sort of fruit would you be? Okay, so for a moment, like if you get asked this type of question, you'd be kind of like thinking for a while what to answer. All right, so these are not like a straightforward like a question, right? Just like for example, if the question asks you about experience with Java, for example, okay, answer will come right away because that's something you did as part of your job experience or as part of your educational background or training. So these type of questions would, like basically it takes some creative thinking in a sense. Okay, so be ready. The more you practice, the more you read, I think, the more ready you will be in a sense. Okay, also quick judgment, quick thinking would be key to answering these type of questions. Okay, so expect to be asked like this question, one of these questions or any question like similar to these in your mock job interview. Okay. As I mentioned before, don't let your answer be just one line. Okay, never do that. But don't make it too long as well. You will not be, most probably, you'll not be the only person being interviewed that day, so you don't want to take too long as well. However, having said that, don't make it like one sentence answer for any of the questions. Okay. Sample question and answer here. Again, at the end of the day, you want to take the opportunity, or any question in the job interview is your opportunity. Take it as a challenge to make yourself look better. Okay, what can you like highlight? What skill set or what accomplishment, what experience can you highlight through that question or through that answer? Okay, for example, let me read out this one here. So what sort of fruit would you choose to be? That's the question. Okay, so here the interviewee or the person like basically giving the interview is not merely answering saying the fruit that he or she chooses to be. Okay, so through this answering, he or she is trying to basically make himself or herself look better. Okay, highlighting some accomplishment perhaps. Okay, so let me read this answer. I would choose to be an orange as they have a bright, welcoming color that makes them stand out. As you probably would want to stand out, among your like a competitor who would be applying for the same job position. Okay. My recent work experience as a supermarket assistant showed that it was important to be welcoming, helpful, and friendly towards customers at all times. So see how that person brought out like several skills or several accomplishments or several power words or keywords here. Okay. Oranges are also the shape of a ball, which I associate with my love for football and being a good team player. Team player, again, highlighting something, good skill set. I think an orange has hidden depths and values that you only discover only once it is peeled. Right? See how this question is answered, and you can think like of some way that you can basically insert your uh, skills or accomplishment in the in your answer. Okay, just don't merely answer saying orange is my favorite or I choose to be an orange. Okay, that would be like wasted opportunity for you. Okay, so towards the end of a job interview, it is customary or it is normally your interviewer will give you an opportunity to ask one or two questions to your interviewer. Okay, so in a sense, the table is turned towards the end. So you become like an interviewer in a sense. You get to ask question, right? Uh, so take that opportunity to ask some question. Okay, especially those questions that you could not find it while you were researching for that company. Okay, in other words, questions whose answers are normally not found in the company's website or social media. Okay, if these are already found, then you don't need to basically question them. Or in the during the interview, if all your questions have been answered, then you don't need to basically repeat the question. Okay, so you could say something like, you have already answered my questions. I really don't have any questions for you today. But if I have it, I will make sure that I will email you or call you, something like that. Okay, so for this one, definitely prepare beforehand. Okay, research about the company, research about the job position. It is not a good idea to ask for the salary information during the job interview because you don't know if you got the job. Okay, so it will be kind of like putting the cart before the horse, right? Discuss about the salary only after you have basically got you basically got the job offer from the company, which will be after the interview. If the interview goes well, then they will give you the job offer. Then your salary negotiation stage begins. Okay, so the company will offer you salary. Okay, if you're satisfied with it, you'll accept it. If you're not satisfied with it, then you will negotiate on the salary. Okay, for this one, you can do some research about what is the going rate for based on your qualification, like years of qualification, your education qualification, your certification maybe. All these things matter when it comes to salary negotiation or the salary that the company is willing to pay. It also depends on how big is the company as well. If a company is like a startup company, they may not be able to offer much. Okay, but you may get to work in, let's say, something really new and exciting. All right, you may have to balance all these things together. Okay, so don't ask about the salary during the job interview. All right, that would not look that good. Okay, so some tips here for a while asking question. I think I've already repeated this. Okay. Um, so some do's and don'ts here. Do's would be if you're interested in career advancement. Okay, so if you, let's say, applied for a Java programmer position, and if you're interested about, let's say, how you can go from, like, let's say, junior level programmer to senior level programmer. Are there like a, certification opportunities? Will the company be paying for training and all that? Okay. What about the working flexibility? These days, like, the IT jobs could be done from home, right? Remote working. Does the company offer that? Right? So all of these things could be discussed during the job interview. Okay. However, don't ask any personal information, okay, or something that's you feel like the interviewer may not be able to answer. It could be like, let's say, company secret. I think these would be common sense, okay. All right, so that's all I have for you guys for the job interview questions. So again, these are the typical questions that could be asked, but for your job interview, when you're actually applying when you're actually applying for the real job, you could be asked a little different question, not on the list here, okay? But the type of question could be the same. All right. So having said that, I would like to get some questions from you guys if you have them.